Mike Broomhead Show.
2 years ago, Arizona politicians said they're going to get rid of Common Core. They've studied it for 2 years. The changes are in place. We'll have it for you right now. And a member of the mommy lobby calls up to tell us why they didn't do enough. It's the Mike Broomhead Show.
I got a message. I got a song. Can I get a witness? Tell me what's going on.
All right, I'm Barry Markson in for Mike on this beautiful Tuesday morning. Going to be about 75 degrees today in the Valley of the Sun. Welcome to it. It's Christmas week. Merry Christmas, everybody. Hey, Common Core, man. 2 years ago, we couldn't talk about this enough, and that was it was a major topic of the elections 2 years ago. Governor Ducey was elected. Diane Douglas was elected. The whole slate. Republicans went across the board here in Arizona, several of them with a promise to get rid of Common Core. The Board of Education had a commission that Diane Douglas put in place to do a study of that, and they just released their findings, and the Board of Education voted yesterday 8-1 to accept those findings, and at least from my reading of it, didn't really change the standards much at all. They changed some phrasing about how teachers would teach the standards. They changed some phrasing to make it a little clearer to parents, and they added a cursive writing requirement. But that's about it. Didn't get rid of the standards. They're still in place. There's a different name, but those standards are still there. And Jenna's calling in. She's from Chandler. And, Jenna, you're a member of the Mommy Lobby, which is very much opposed to Common Core. Is that right?
Yes, that is correct. And a word about the standards. If you look at the comparison side to side, the previous Common Core standards and the new Arizona K-12 standards, the wording is exactly the same, almost verbatim.
Yeah.
And even the way that teachers teach, it is still very prescriptive in methods of how the teachers are to teach. And the same crazy math that the parents completely hate, explaining their answer, showing 3 different ways to get their answer, is all in there still. It's the same exact thing, only cursive was added. A few things were taken out that were really bothering parents, like literature, like The Bluest Eye was taken out. But essentially it is the same exact thing. The same exact thing that Governor Ducey had promised parents and teachers and that Diane Douglas ran on, saying that she was going to eliminate, is all still there.
So, Jenna, what happened here? Because this was, I mean, you're right. 2 years ago, this is what we heard from Diane Douglas. We heard it from all the Republican politicians. We're going to get rid of Common Core. So here we are 2 years later, and it sounds like really not much of anything changed.
Well, yes, the Mommy Lobby, our group of moms and dads, actually worked very hard to get Diane Douglas elected. And we have been actually excellent friends with her. We contact and call each other really often. But the flip happened, I'd say, about a couple of months ago, when we were contacting her, seeing, hey, these new standards are looking exactly the same. She started to kind of push us out a little bit there and said, I think they're great. She started applauding them.
She started applauding the same. She started applauding the same standards that she ran against 2 years ago.
Yes, and she's now defending herself, saying, "Oh, these are not a Common Core rebrand," even though we've done a side-to-side comparison, showing that the exact verbiage is exactly the same.
So, Jenna, what happened? I mean, she was, and I take Diane Douglas at her word. I think she was truly against Common Core 2 years ago.
Yes,
so,
in the beginning, she truly was.
Okay, so what changed? I mean, she you're right. She ran on that. That was basically her whole campaign, if I'm remembering right.
Yes,
she kind of hid out. She didn't come on radio. She didn't come on TV. She said, "I'm against Common Core," and that was the whole thing. Why you think she changed? Because she wasn't going to be able to get anything else done, or do you think she looked at it and said, "Hey, these standards are actually pretty good. We don't need to change them"?
Well, I think her main excuse that she's hinting towards is saying, "Hey, I can't get anything else done. We need to move on and review the social studies and science standards." But if she's going to hurry through and rush the science and social studies standards just the same as she did with the English and math, it's going to be a disaster.
Well, how did she hurry it through? It's been 2 years. I mean, that's a long. That seems to me to be a long time to look at these standards.
Yes, what happened is we had several bills up in front of the legislature. A couple of years ago, we had 2190, which would have eliminated completely Common Core out of our state. Mark Fincham sponsored that bill. And that bill looked like it was actually going to pass because Common Core was very, very unpopular. However, Governor Ducey came in and said, I want to eliminate Common Core a different way.
Yeah.
And so he sent an email to the Senate, basically telling them to let that bill die. I happened to be meeting with Senator Begay at the time, and Senator Begay had showed me that email. And so we were hoping and trusting that Governor Ducey was going to do it in another way. We actually met with Governor Ducey about a week later for an hour and a half. And Governor Ducey laid out a plan in front of us, the Mommy Lobby, saying we are going to now form a standards development committee, and I would like all of you to apply and be on this committee.
Okay.
And I did not. I was too busy at the time. I also run Opt Out AZ. And so several of our moms and dads were put on to that committee to review the standards. So we're going to review and take out the bad things that were prescriptive, the things that parents hated, the things that tied the hands of teachers, where it didn't allow them to teach how they would like to teach. We are going to eliminate those things, add cursive, get rid of some of the bad literature. And so that committee worked for 18 months, very hard on the standards. And they cast a vote last Wednesday on the 18th. And the vote was, let's table this and wait and look over these, because they had just received the final copy less than 24 hours before. And Diane Douglas was pushing and rushing the vote forward, saying we need a vote for this and recommend this for the State Board of Education to pass.
Okay, so you're saying the committee said, "Hey, let's look at it a little bit longer," and Diane Douglas said, "No."
They tabled it. They tabled the vote.
Okay, and then it got in front of the Board of Education anyway.
It was not supposed to be in front of the State Board of Education until after they met in January. The Standards Development Committee was supposed to meet in January to re-vote again.
All right,
if they should rebrand the standards or if they should start from scratch.
All right, so is it over now? I mean, now that the Board of Education has voted, is this whole process finished?
I don't think it's over. Well, right now, the State Board of Education has stated that we are rebranding Common Core. It's adopted. That part's done, but we're not done yet. A lot of parents are very upset. Diane Douglas will not be reelected. She was elected the first time. She was a no-namer. Nobody knew who she was, really.
Right.
She was elected on the premise that she would get rid of Common Core. She's not going to be elected again.
Jenna, let me ask
Parents
you,
are very upset.
Is it possible, and I understand your opposition to it, but is it possible that people got in and looked at these and some of the politicians who were kind of caught up in the rhetoric and the excitement of what was going on anti-Common Core at the time, but then once they got in and said, hey, you know what, the standards actually aren't that bad, that this did raise the level of education in Arizona?
I wish it happened like that, but that's not exactly how it happened. A whole bunch of lobbyists from Achieve who wrote the Common Core standards got onto the subcommittees. The Standards Development Committee was an 18-member committee comprised of business community leaders, parents, school board members, and educators. And the majority of them were not liking Common Core and the prescriptive nature and it tying the hands of teachers. But what happened is the subcommittees that were appointed to review the standards ended up being, the majority of them were lobbyists, were education lobbyists that would profit off of the textbooks, the tests, all of those things related to Common Core.
Hey, Jen, and Jenna's a mom in Chandler. She's a member of the Mommy Lobby that opposes Common Core, and I do appreciate you taking a few minutes with us today to talk about the Board of Education's vote yesterday. Thanks for calling in.
Thank you very much for your time. All
right, there you have it, folks. So that's those are the folks that really the heart of this anti-Common Core thing. And I'll tell you, I see this a lot, and I'm hopefully not going to offend anybody here, but I think oftentimes our politicians, and it's everybody, both sides of the aisle, they get behind whatever is firing up some segment of the population and say, you're right, I'm with you, but because they want that support and they want that passion and they want those people to support them. And then I think a lot of politicians either never really bought into it or bought into it, but as they then take the time to look, when it actually comes time to making changes or getting rid of or doing something that they promised, I think they look at it and say, well, wait a second, this isn't that bad. And it's, at least according to Jenna, it's interesting that certainly that Diane Douglas, who absolutely ran on an anti-Common Core platform, that was really her whole platform. It's interesting to hear that perhaps she changed her opinion as she got into.